Welcome to Around the NRL today. We're going to rip into the World Cup. We're going to talk about all the games that have happened so far. We've got a bit of NRL news, also a little bit on War on the Wharves and the Spring Carnival coming up this weekend, boys.
Also, our new Around the NRL show is brought to you by Darryl Lee's new Rice Bubbles Crispy Milk Chocolate Block. They go snap, crackle, pop. It's a bit of a mouthful, that, boys, but...
The old Cocoa Pops.
Yeah. We're also proudly supported by the Juniors, NG Farah, Bunnaby Water, and George's Cameras. And Brownie, welcome back.
Yeah, it's good to be back, boys. Been living out in Hawaii for 2 weeks. Aloha. Mahalo.
Looks like a good setup over there.
Yeah, weather was great. I know you've had plenty of rain back here while I was over there, so it was good to be over there while it was raining here. Drank plenty of cocktails, plenty of beers. Food was great. Company was good. I was there with the family. Got to spend a lot of time with the family.
A lot of Japanese food. Looks like you're in there, tucking in there, Brownie.
Yeah, bit of sushi, poke bowls. Went to the North Shore, had a surf, chaps.
I saw the pictures. Yeah, you're going well. You're going better than me. I'm hopeless.
That's the first time I've ever
gone.
surfed. I was out there at Waikiki Beach, got the big Malibu out, had a lot of fun, and thinking about getting into it back here, chaps. You might have to give me a couple of tips.
There's no waves at Redfern when you're growing up, is there? So that's fair enough. And what about you look like you're still in pretty good nick for an old fella, mate. You had the picture taken with the shirt off.
Well, you always, when you think you're in good nick, and you always try and get a picture with your shirt off of it. Did a bit of training over there, found a gym. So I had me boys there, Jaden and Tyler with me, and we did a bit of training while we were there. So it wasn't all just rest. We've done a bit of work while we were there as well.
It was your sister's birthday too, Kelly, wasn't it?
Yes,
happy
birthday to Kelly, and my young bloke's girlfriend, Amanda. So it was her birthday while we were over there as well. So
yeah, and who else we saw? We saw young Sutto over there for a wedding too. Adam.
Yes.
Botany boy.
Dylan O'Connor. Congratulations.
There you go. Week 1, chaps. The first game kicked off on the 16th of October, and Samoa started favourites against England, but that was a bit of a mistake by the bookies.
$1.70 favourites there, Samoa. They had a great side on paper. It was 5 or 6 grand final winning Penrith Panthers side from that side. And at the end of the day, the spine of Levi, Milf, Luai and Sawali just didn't get the job done. The Pommies were up for it.
Well, they were, and they're a class outfit. England playing on home soil, so they're obviously accustomed.
A lot of pride. There's a lot of pride in that England jersey.
Yeah, definitely. Accustomed to playing on the fields over there, which are quite difficult at times because they've got shorter in goals. And I've been noticing a lot of the teams running it on the last rather than putting a kick in, going dead and giving the opposition a 7-tackle set.
It's dangerous too. You don't want to be chasing a kick because the fence is only a metre from the dead ball line.
You slide into it.
Don't you belt straight into that fence?
Yeah. But the Samoans, look, there's been a lot of controversy over the coach, Matt Parrish, and there has been for quite some time. I remember throughout the year, the Johns boys put their hand up to coach the team, but they knocked them back and they still went with the coach. There is maybe a little bit of friction in the camp with Matt Parrish, the coach.
Well, it's a good side. Don't worry about that. It should not be getting beat 60 points to 8 with the blokes that get on paper there. They got your Totos. He ran for 300 metres in the grand final. Crichton out in the wing there. They've got a great side.
On paper, they looked unbeatable, and the bookies thought so as well. But they got a rude shock. Now, obviously, we're going to talk about a focus on the Rabbitohs in the World Cup. And
I just want to talk about Sawali, the fullback.
Well, former Rabbitoh.
But his position as a fullback. Do you see him as a fullback? Personally, I don't. I think he's a great winger. I just don't think he's got the skills
in the game in the last couple of years. The way he's come through, he's physically bigger and stronger than most 18-year-olds, and athletically. But I don't know about football brain-wise. I don't know whether he's got the football nous to play fullback. Positionally, he was called out a few times. He's never going to shirk the carries. He's got the great carries and all that, but ball skills, Brownie, the 2-on-1s, he doesn't seem to be able to sum them up.
No, well, that's what I was going to talk to you. I don't think he's got the passing game for a fullback. He's, like you said, chaps, he's a good
centre,
winger.
like a big, strong centre or defensive centre, because he's certainly got the build. We know he can put the shots on. We've seen that in the NRL this year at the age of 18.
Very athletic, like you said, and like chaps are only 18. But I remember when he played against us, I think it was his first attempt to play at fullback. He bombed a couple of tries that night because he didn't play a 2-on-1.
Look, he's a kid. When he's 22, 23, might be the best fullback in the game. You wouldn't know, but at the moment, it's not looking likely. There's also rumours Uncle Nick is challenging some of the clauses in his contract, which they actually come into fruition in 2023.
The ones that we wouldn't cop.
The ones that
South wouldn't cop.
the South Sydney boys wouldn't cop,
Yep.
where he has to play a certain position. Well, I mean, not many blokes get over Uncle Nick. We'll see. We'll see where that one ends.
Well,
up.
I know he wants to play fullback, and it's been well documented and well reported that that is his position. But at this stage, he's probably number 3 on the list to play fullback for the Roosters, isn't he?
Mano,
Yeah.
we'll get to Mano, but he was outstanding the other night for the Kiwis. Look, I don't think Teddy had his best game the other day, but he'll warm into the tournament. By the end of it, he'll be better for the run.
Just touching on
Teddy
the
hasn't
Aussies?
played for a while. Yeah, touching on the Aussies. It was a good performance by Munster. He was strong. I liked Angus Crichton too. Also, Tino Fasamawali was strong up front. The bloke with the big hair, his hair was flying around all over the joint. The edge of, you wouldn't want to come up against this edge of Latrell Mitchell and the Fox. They tormented them at times there, didn't they?
And Angus Crichton down that left edge that you were just talking
strong.
about, chaps. Yeah, too classy for the Fijians. But I want to give credit to the Fijians because they were really good early.
Oh, they were.
They were putting pressure on us. They had a lot of field position. They came up with the first try, I think it was.
They did.
Yep.
And, look, a credit to all the second-tier nations. I think they've been performing well throughout the tournament, and we'll touch on a few of them. But Fiji, hold your head high. I thought you were brave in defeat.
We just skipped past Tommy B, and we meant to mention him. He had a good game.
Oh, he was
chaps,
good.
for England.
He was
yeah.
outstanding.
And they had a few injuries too. Samoa, the Hammer, Ueli, and Tyrone May. So they're in all sorts. Before we move on, we've moved on.
Well, just the Australian, back to the Australian side.
Yep.
I probably missed a guy. Jeremiah Nano looked lively, right edge, good footwork, scored a nice try early to get us a bit of ascendancy. But is there a better hooker out there than Harry Grant? Come off the bench, controlled everything, put blokes through, scored tries.
Damien Cook.
Well, I think probably the bloke from PNG is up there with him at the moment. But
Yeah. What's his name, chaps? We're going to get to him in a minute.
I'll get to him, mate. I wrote it down there somewhere, but yeah, we'll get to him.
Chaps, just on Harry Grant, he does it for Queensland as well. He comes off the bench and ignites Queensland every time he comes on. I mean, he starts for Melbourne when he plays for his club.
He's getting
team.
bigger. He's really thick up top now, isn't he?
Yeah, he just changes the
unit.
pace of the game and creates so much out of dummy half.
He's got a
The
kick
show and
in
go.
him and that. Yeah.
He's got everything.
Yeah.
And we sort of once he came on, we started to sort of improve and play a good brand of footy.
So, talking points, the Fox try from Latrell Mitchell.
Oh,
I've got to
wow.
forgive me. Sorry. Yeah, so talk about that, boys.
Inside the 10, he just, like Latrell does, bit of knockout footy, saw the space, give it to the Fox. He turned him inside out 3 or 4 times, and I suppose you've got to pose the question. I know he's a mate of yours, Big Freddie, but how did the Fox miss out State of Origin-wise?
Well, look, I
would have had him in the side myself,
Yeah.
just for energy and the enthusiasm and what he does brings off the field.
Yeah.
He's such a great
Well,
character.
he is, and you see that on social media when he's joking and posting a lot of posts with his teammates, and he's happy. He brings a good environment to the team, and there's no question about it. He's a great try scorer and a great finisher. But in Origin, there's one area that Freddie wants, and he wants big wingers because he knows that in Origin you spend a lot of time coming off your own line. And to have big wingers with them tough carries, I know Toho's not a big winger, but he's got a lot of tough carries. You just said before, Toho run for 300 metres in the State of Origin. Now, Fox will probably run for 300 metres, but a lot of that will be in open space. Long distance tries. So I know that's right. I know the reason why he wasn't picked in Origin, and that's because of them tough carries. You got Daniel Tupu on one
is
wing.
sort of that right winger, and the Fox plays best wing on the left, and so does Toto.
Well, Toho can play either side.
He can. They could have put him over there and dropped Toops, but Toops had a good series anyway. But myself personally, I think we lacked a character like the Fox, not just on the field but off the field. And I think we would have went a long way to winning it.
Well, he brings a lot to every team.
You watch him in the knockout.
On and off the field. Yeah, well, that's right. And we got about 1 million hits from videos that he featured in, so we love the Fox here, local boy.
Oh, he's a champion fella. He's a great bloke, and like you boys just said, he's a character.
Yep. And someone else we love is Trell Mitt. He backed up for a try, and he looked real happy after the game. He got interviewed. Well, excuse me, well done there. So him and Val Holmes look like they've cemented that centre pairing, but we'll have to wait and see now. A couple of other things to talk about is the Cherry Evans-Cleary situation. Now, obviously, Cleary's the best halfback in the game. Everybody knows it. But Cherry's the incumbent. He's a Queenslander, and he killed him in Origin 3. So there's talk that he might have played himself out of that role, even though he's set up a try. And
look, mate, I watched the game. I didn't notice much Cherry Evans doing too much, to be honest. He didn't play a dominant role. There's a lot of dominant players in that Australian side. Your Munsters, your Harry Grants, and he sort of faded into the background. It's such a star-studded side. It's very hard to stand out in a Kangaroos jersey, Brown, isn't it?
Well, it is, but like you just said, chaps, he wasn't noticeable, but he came up with a couple of poor options as well.
Yeah.
In terms of he threw an intercept pass. I mean, we're only playing Fiji, and we dominated the game 42 points to 8. But in saying that, Cherry Evans still came up with a few poor kicks.
Yep.
A poor option in the intercept.
And what's the feature of Cleary's game?
His kicking game.
Yeah. There's no one like him in the game.
Like you said, Mavo, he's the best halfback, if not the best player in the game at this point of time. So I think that moving forward, Cleary is our answer at number 7 if we want to win this competition.
So Mal has said that when we take on Scotland, that's Saturday morning at 5:30, that all the other players will get a run. So that means that Campbell Graham's stretch will get a run.
The grand final players and that, yeah.
Cleary will get a run, and
Isaiah.
I'd say Regan Campbell-Gillard he'd be knocking on the door, yeah.
So a couple will have to back up.
Big
Obviously, they won't have enough to play a whole other 17, I don't think. But one player that will play is Rooster Lindsay Collins, who was set to follow in the footsteps of his grandfather, Lionel Williamson, who played 11 tests for the Kangaroos. So that'll be a nice moment.
That's a good story, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Well done to Lindsay.
Good on him.
Really looking forward to Stretch getting a run. He was 19th man on the weekend, and he'll be coming up against Scotland, who he was destined to play for before he got the call up.
That sort of gave us the little nod that I think they're going to pick him.
Well, we said that, didn't we?
Leading into that
Mavo's got another frog in his throat.
Mavo's not going too well. Look, War on the Wharves, we'll talk about that later, but we interviewed Katie Walker, and I asked him about Stretch, didn't I? And he went on and on and on about Stretch and how impressed he is and how happy he is for him. He must be a really great teammate, Stretch.
Oh, we could do a whole show on Stretch. He's been on the podcast, and we'll have to get him back on for another chat. But
what is that? Is that well liked? He got the Players Player of the Year, didn't he?
Yeah. And also, so he's probably going to play in the centres against Scotland and tear him to pieces. And I've just said that I don't think you're going to move Val Holmes and Latrell, so maybe there could be a spot on the wing, but they're not going to move the Fox, so who's on the other wing?
What's the name? The bloke from the Cowboys played on the wing.
Murray Tuolungi.
So,
he had a fair game.
That's not written in stone there, so I'd be happy to see that.
You might be right, Mavo.
Yeah, so let's move on to the next game. And these two are in our group, Italy and Scotland. Italy 28 defeated Scotland 4. Jack Campanolo, Rabbitoh, kick 4 from 5.
Had some nice touches with the ball too, just on set plays. Just got himself in position, some catch and passes, and created some space on the outside. Mate, they look really, really organised, the Italians, honestly.
Yeah. Oh, look, I'll leave this one to you guys. I was on the plane. I didn't get the opportunity to watch this game. So
mate, they were good. There was a winger, Jake Mason. He scored a hat-trick. Jeez, he's a strong ball runner.
Yeah, there you go.
Every time he got the ball, he gave Scotland a worry, mate. Scotland started well. They were right in it, but the class of the Italians are led by Jack Campignolo, your Nathan Browns.
Well, I was going to say, without seeing the game...
He was good.
I'm going to say Nathan Brown was a standout performer looking at the score.
And he was captain too. As he, we worked with his brother,
Andrew,
and he said how proud he is to captain Italy. And
that's awesome.
He was pumped for it, mate.
In case you don't know, if you're watching this, all the games for us are on in the middle of the night or 3 or 5 in the morning. So a lot of times we've got to watch the replay. I just watch the highlights. And just so you know, I haven't got COVID. It's got a bit of a tickle in the throat. I did do a test just so the boys... Anyway, so it's a good story. And also Ethan Natoli, mate of my daughter Demi. He played for Italy in the centres.
He was good.
And he's the son of Paul Sats Natoli, my mate. And he's a local legend. And also the brother of Josh Natoli, who played halfback in that historic Matraville grand final win that we live streamed at Redfern Oval.
The A-grade game,
I was only just talking to Gus Wilson, Scotty Wilson's dad, about him this morning, saying he had a fair game, yeah.
Well, Ethan himself is a local junior, played for the Wombats, and also went to Marcelin College, chaps, your school. And I believe that there's 7 Marcelin College students playing in the World Cup. So that's a great achievement.
Mate,
Great achievement.
Yeah, and it's awesome. And I had a look at his stats, and I think he made a line break and that. So he ran it 15 times and 48 post-contact metres and line break. So good on you, mate. Well done.
Yeah, well done, Ethan.
Shout out to you, Sats. The old man, he's a good bloke.
Yeah, top bloke and a great family.
Ireland 48, Jamaica 2. Now, the biggest cheer of the game, we were told, was when the Reggae Warriors slotted a penalty goal just before half-time. And I'm just going to mention our man Tim Mason, the Aussie who's been on the show, you might remember.
Yes, Timmy.
He's a South fan living in Canada, and he's off work at the moment, so he's paid $70 to get the World Cup on with a provider over there called Fight, F-I-T-E, so he can watch the games. They're on about between 10 a.m. and 4 p.m. over there. He said it's perfect timing on the east coast of Canada to watch the World Cup. So, like I said, some of these games are in the middle of the night, and if we didn't catch the highlights or the game, Tim's going to watch them and sends through some info, and he's got a soft spot for Ireland, but I think you watched it, chaps, and said that Luke Keary, former Rabbitoh, was outstanding.
Oh, he's just so classy. That was the difference between the two sides, to be honest. Brendan O'Hagan, the hooker, was crafty out of dummy half. But look, whenever Luke Keary got himself in position and barked his players where to be, it always looked on. You know, the catch and pass or a kick or a run, and he had to do a little bit more than he normally would at the Chooks. He's actually running through holes and doing flick out the back offloads and stuff like that. He had to do a fair bit of creating, but they're a fair side, mate.
Could you have played well against Jamaica, though, chaps?
No, honestly, Jamaica are big units, as you can imagine.
There you go.
They're big from sort of 1 to 17. There's there's not too many small blokes, and they look like they knew what they were doing.
Boys, I don't think
most of them play over in the UK. There was a couple of guys that actually play in a Jamaican league over there. 1 or 2 blokes were in that side, so you can obviously experience-wise they were underdone. But no, well done to the Jamaicans for competing in the tournament. But
they're a popular country, Jamaica, aren't they? Like Bob Marley and the Gunja and all that over there. the cool dudes like the West Indies.
Yeah, Georgie.
Wouldn't you like to be in their dressing room before the game, like with all the music, all the reggae music playing? Who knows?
Yeah, man.
They could be smoking a Potts Point,
no doubt.
But just going back to the Ireland team, I don't think we had any Aussies involved, but there was an Aussie on the coaching staff, South Sydney.
Yes.
South Sydney Aussies, and Joe O'Callaghan. A big congratulations to Joe on a great win.
Joe back on the tools. Callaghan, you would have saw Chaps' brilliant interview with him at Redfern Oval a month or so ago when he talked about the talent coming through at the club next year. He's the pathways guy. He's the elite player development manager at South.
Go back and have a look at that one if you're big on the next generation coming through, because we speak for a good 10-15 minutes here about all the next generation. Just a quick one.
But back on that before I finish, chaps.
Joshy Cook, we've got to mention Joshy Cook, South Junior.
But
been at the Dogs, but mate, they didn't start him. Brendan O'Hagan was number 14. He started, and because they did the change so late, bit of a trivia, they took an interchange off him. They did the interchange only a few minutes before kickoff, and it's sort of, I've never seen that too many times before. But
their rules and
didn't affect them in the end. Didn't affect them in the end, but Cookie come on and really good service, and he's a big unit for a hooker, good defensive hooker, and look forward to seeing him up against the Aussies coming up.
Only had a coffee with his dad David at the Park Cafe on Chalmers at Redfern, and he's also the nephew of the great Too Good Bruce Longbottom. But what I was going to say is, I said Joe back on the tools, O'Callaghan. Need to explain that because he was a coach last season. He was coaching the Fleg or something, and then he had a year off just to concentrate on being an assistant coach at the club and work the Pathways program. He's got the itch again now. He's going to take the reins of the knock-on effect New South Wales Cup. I think that's who's going to be sponsoring him again. If it's not, it's just the New South Wales Cup. So he's a good coach, Joe. He doesn't hold anything back in the halftime breaks, let me tell you, or after the game. If you haven't gone well, he'll tell you about it.
A couple of players to watch there. Look, George King, the lock, he was pretty crafty. He holds the ball in 2 hands there, made some good metres. And also Frankie Houghton, the back rower, another name that we're not familiar with here in the NRL. So a couple of names to look out for there for the Irish team.
Is it Jay Bentley there? Is it Joey Bentley? I don't think it's the Joey Bentley we work with, but shout out to you.
It's James Bentley. But
Joey.
Anyway.
James, there you go. All right, so let's move on to the Kiwi. What are they called? The
Kiwis.
The Kiwis. Sorry, I just said that. I was going to say
not the Silver Ferns.
I was going to say the Silver Ferns.
Well, that's netball. You've got the All Blacks Rugby Union.
Can we cut that? Anyway,
it's the Kiwis,
they beat Lebanon 34-12, but Lebanon I watched the highlights, obviously. Well, not obviously. I didn't watch it because, like I said, you're not going to get up in the middle of the night. So some people would, shift workers or whatever, and you can tape it. I've got it all series linked, all the games, if you want to watch the whole replay. But anyway, Lebanon, short kick-off, got the ball back, and the Source scored in the first minute of the game. So hopes would have been high for the Lebanese squad. Now, they're called the Cedars, aren't they?
The Cedars.
There you go.
Yeah.
After the tree. Cedrus Labani. Anyway, they led, but then, I think the Kiwis were too good. They're second favourites to win this tournament. And Joey Manu, I saw the highlights of the try he put on. It was pretty special. And Michael Checker, the coach of Lebanon, said he likes Joey Manu when he's playing for the Roosters, but not when he's playing for New Zealand and carving up my team.
I watched a documentary on him as an Australian story the other day. He's a great journey that he's been on, Checker, and he's now the coach of the Argentinian national team and Lebanon in rugby league. So rugby league and rugby. You know if anyone's ever done that at the same time. But
what can he do?
Well, he's got aspirations to coach rugby league. I know that, and he's going about it the right way. He's obviously been. I think he spent a bit of time assisting Trent Robinson down there at the Roosters. Obviously coaching the Lebanon team, and like you said, chaps, at the same time coaching the Argentinian rugby union team, who had a test match.
They beat
only
Australia.
a week ago.
Flogged Australia a few weeks ago.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So he's doing both roles, and let's a credit to him.
I remember growing up going out and watch Randwick Rugby, and he was in some great sides in the late 80s, early 90s for Randwick Rugby Union. He was a great player, and he's kicked on, and he's actually married a mate of mine's sister. So
he's travelled the world. He does a lot of coaching.
Brad Dunn, our delegate.
I didn't know that. Yeah. There you go. And we're going to talk about War on the Wharves a little bit later, our night there, and some of the interviews we did. So we'll move on to France 34, Greece 12. An historic match. I think it was the first Greek team to play International Rugby League. A couple of bunnies in there.
World Cup.
What did I say?
National Rugby League.
National Rugby League. Okay, so a couple of bunnies there. Lockie Elias, Peter Mamazelis, might have been some others, but...
Nick Burgess.
Yeah, Rhys Robinson.
Oh, there you go.
Chase Robinson.
Chase Robinson.
So Tim Mason reports that the French blokes were huge, too big, too fast, and too fit. There was an historic try for Greece. Siteni Takamo scored the first try, but then Mugios was the try of the tournament, Brownie.
Yeah, well, it was, and it was quite similar to a try that happened a couple of years ago by the same person who kicked the ball, and that was Billy Magulius from the Cronulla Sharks. He's now playing with the Newtown Jets. Spent a bit of time at Warrington this year, and yeah, he's very skillful, Billy, for a back row forward.
You coached him, Brownie?
I did, mate. I coached him all his junior career. He's a mascot junior. Played in my team, and he was always skillful back then. Always had the ability to kick the ball and pass the ball, and that's still how he's playing today, and it was a great try. But I just want to give a rap to the Greeks because I thought they were really good. Gallant in defeat. I know the score, it says 34-12, but the score was 14-12 in the second half. I think they just got beaten in the second half. But the first half, they created a lot of opportunities, the Greeks, and the final pass went begging. Obviously, if that would have stuck, the score might have been a little bit different. And, you got to have a little bit of luck in these competitions. And unfortunately, the Greeks didn't get it in that first half. And I thought they were really good. Lockie Elias, like you said, looked very classy out there. Young Pete was very crafty around hooker. And Nick and Chase all played extremely well, and Billy Magulius. And they're not a star-studded team. They've only got a few NRL players in the team, and a lot of them just probably play in the local league. But, yeah, credit to the Greek team.
The French must have been all right, but I didn't watch the game. But tell us a bit about that French team. I think there's only a few names I've really recognised there. That
a lot of the players...
Samasoni Lange, I remember. I think he played over here for the Roosters in his younger days.
Yeah, a lot of the players will be playing in the French Rugby League or the Super League. So they're playing at a high level. But, yeah, they had a pretty big forward pack.
We might have to get,
like Tim said.
Have to get Jason Clarke on.
I was going to say that.
Speak about some of these guys because he's playing in that league at the moment.
And it just made me think that when we live streamed the War on the Wharves, Jason Clarke was watching all the way from France.
Sent us a message, didn't he?
Yeah, where he's playing in the French comp, which sounds like a pretty good gig down there. He's living in the south of France. It's just the French league, so he doesn't have to travel to England, and he's living the life there. We saw his dad Gaz went over for a little visit, and it looks pretty special where he's playing.
Yeah, I spoke to Gaz about it yesterday. travelled over there for a couple of weeks, helped Jace make the transition from the UK to France.
Yep.
And, he's got a couple of young kids over there. Clarke, a shout out to you, mate. He's making the best of living overseas and extending his career like you would, because once you come back, it's in the real world.
And the reason we know this is because the three of us were at East Gardens for something, I forget now, but we're going to Connor, where our man of the People's works, and to get our tuxedos for the red and green ball. Anyway, we ran into Gary Clarke and Michelle Clarke, and they told us all about it. So shout out to you guys. And a shout out to our man, Jeffrey Dufresne. He's a Rabbitoh living over in France. Well, he's a Frenchman, but he loves the Rabbitohs, and we'll have to get him on for a chat.
Loves his rugby league, doesn't he?
He does, and he's played the game, and we'll have to get his thoughts on when France take on the Pommies on Sunday morning at 3 a.m. That's going to be
going to be a big clash.
Yeah, week 2, but we're going to get to that in a minute.
Tricky time slot though, 3:30 a.m. But
3 a.m.
for us.
Before we move on, Tonga. They defeated PNG this morning, chaps, in a thriller, 24-18.
Yeah, I got up early, 5:30 a.m. That one was. We got up and watched that one. Outstanding start for the PNG side. They were well up for the contest. Collision-wise, they were certainly winning all of those. Our man at the back, Alex Johnson, was always in position, really sweeping around the back. They actually bombed a couple of tries.
They did.
One of the wingers, I think it was Sean Russell, put his foot out. He had no one within cooey of him, and he steps on the sideline. I think Justin Olam put him away. He had a big say in the contest as well, but there was no one bigger than Edwin Ipape, and I hope I'm saying that right, the hooker, 192 metres out of dummy half. He was an absolute standout in the game.
Outstanding. And Papua New Guinea came within a whisker of winning the game. Our man, Keon Kalamatangi, scores in the 77th minute to secure the win. But outstanding, Papua New Guinea. I thought they were unbelievable. They were exciting to watch. They would have taken a lot of confidence into the game after beating Fiji throughout the year in that Polynesian game when the Origin was played on the standalone weekend. They've got a great man on the coaching staff in Shane Flanagan. They're playing a great brand of footy, and they were exciting to watch. Look, they're going to be a big threat in this competition to come out and nearly beat Tonga, who are filled with superstars. A great effort, Papua New Guinea. Well done.
They're a proud rugby league nation. I've been there and played against them. They love their footy. It's the only country in the world where rugby league's the number one sport. And
the halves are good for them. Lockie Lamb and
Laybart.
Is it Laybart? Yeah, I think Kyle Laybart. He's played a couple of games for the Cows over the years in first grade, but mate, he looked good. Takes it to the line. He's a big unit. He could be a redhead or something. The redhead of PNG. That's pretty rare. And rare as hen's teeth. Rangers from PNG.
Exactly. You get all types playing for all different countries.
Mate,
but they had a couple of tries disallowed as well, chaps. I thought one of them was a certain try.
Yeah.
And there was a try that was disallowed. They
Second
called
half.
a shepherd.
That was early.
Which I couldn't see. But look,
he made decisive decisions. That ref, he didn't muck around like those sort of where he thinks the ball was caught behind the lead runner and stuff. He didn't muck around. He just gave a penalty straight away. He didn't go upstairs. He didn't do any of that crap. So he was really good. Look, before we move on, the PNG blokes to look out for. I thought the lock, Jacob Alec, mate, he looked good. Good ball play, holds it in two hands. He's one to look forward to in the tournament going forward. Obviously, Wellington Albert, he's been around for a while. Wellington Albert's playing in the UK. He's a strong ball runner. But on the other side of the field, Tonga eventually got home off the back of Keon Kalamatangi. Outstanding performance. He had a try assists, scored the winning try, like you said. But Wayne Bennett would be impressed with Dolphins signing Isaiah Katoa, the halfback. He looks a prospect, Brownie.
Yeah, well, he looks good, and he's plenty of potential coming through that Penrith system. I think he came through, and obviously the Dolphins have secured his services for next year. But one player that, like you just said, Keon Kalamatangi, he had a positional switch, chaps.
He played hooker for the first 25 minutes. I've never seen him do that. I don't think he's ever played that for the Rabbitohs. And the big man bending down and passing it out, it was a pretty good job before they brought on another Penrith product in Sonny Luke, who sort of finished the game at hooker. So, well done to Keon.
Well, they used to do that with Josh McGuire, didn't they? They used to study. I think he might have even played Origin at hooker at stages.
Yeah, well, the South Sydney Almanac, our mate, he put up a little run sheet for the year, just minutes played and metres from everyone, totals, and Keon Koloamatangi, 78.4 minutes played, average this year for every game he played.
It's amazing.
And he hardly missed a game. I think he played nearly every game.
Yeah, Marco Sivis, that is, from the South Sydney Rabbitohs
Marco
Almanac.
Sivis, what a good man.
And they said that try was a miracle try. Went for about 8 sets of hands. Vossi said it went for his 73 sets of hands. I think he was over being sarcastic there or exaggerating. But he also said this is a real mess at one stage in the call of that try. And it was a bit of a dog's breakfast. But in the end, they won the game and our boy Keon got it done.
He showed a lot of toe to get to the ball as well.
And Suo
In the
kicked it.
77th minute.
Takiaho kicked it. The front
Takiaho,
row. So he had a fair
There you
game. Big
Front row to
Suo.
the second row.
And before we move on, Rhys Martin scored a try for PNG and he's kicked 41 in a row.
Outstanding effort. He's over there playing in the UK Super League Leeds, so he's obviously got that kicking record from over there, and it's continued on.
Well, our record's not much when you look at that. You know what our record is? 27, Hazem El Masri. He's murdered that.
Yes.
Yeah.
The Pommy record prior to this year was 35. He's got that record as well.
Well, they pride themselves on their goal kicking, the Pommies. Obviously, they introduced around the corner kicking.
Yep.
I think Johnny Gray,
yeah.
might have been the first one to bring it over here.
But he's a back rower too, Brownie. That's a bit of a rarity to see an accurate back rower goal kicker. Like, you know, I know you played a bit of back row at times.
Corey Parker wasn't a bad
there you
back row goal kicker.
Well, Rhys, when he played here for the Bulldogs, he was goal kicking then as well. So he's always had that talent. It wasn't if he's just gone over there and started kicking. He was a talented kicker here, but he was another player that impressed me as well. They've got a number of NRL experienced players, and hence the reason why they play with so much passion, and they're leading the way, them boys, especially Alex Johnston.
Now, before we move on, Tim, our man in Canada, said that he said Jamaica and Greece are showing a lot of commitment. And he said they were outclassed at times, but the coaches, Romeo Monteith, Steve Georgialis, Greece, you know, they've got their players going good, and other big names in the coaching staff are Checker and Madge, Michael Maguire, who we're going to talk about in our Around the NRL segment in a moment.
Well, the game's come a long way, hasn't it, boys? On a world stage, you know, probably 5 or 6 years ago, these teams, Greece and I know Jamaica was probably the worst performers of the tournament so far, but Lebanon, Papua New Guinea, Fiji, they would have got smashed years ago. But now they're competing and nearly winning games. It's a credit to the game itself. I think it's in a good space and moving forward.
Well, I think it's sensational. I love the fact that the game's growing and that we've got a World Cup we can talk about. Now, we've spent half an hour talking about it. We could talk for, you know, we're going to do another show next week. And it's great that these emerging nations are coming along like Greece and giving opportunities to blokes like Pete Mamazelis, you know, Lockie Ilias. We talked about
Nick Mugios, who played A-grade.
Yeah.
You know?
And Ethan Natali, who, you know, he's just a local kid who's got his chance and he's taken it with both hands. So it's a great story. And if you're watching this, don't forget, we're brought to you by Darryl Lee. And they've got some new balls out. We've got the orange and the raspberry here, but they've got the milk chocolate and the white chocolate. Now, we're just waiting on them to send some through to us. But
Maybe you know who else has given opportunities to? All the staff. They're travelling the world. Joe O'Callaghan we just spoke about. But I'll tell you who I've seen today.
Yep.
I think he might have been working with Madge Maguire in the replay. Our stats man. He was working for Michael Maguire. He would have worked with him at South. And he's got a relationship with him.
Yep.
He was doing the stats and obviously all the science behind it. So there's another opportunity.
What's his name, Brownie? The stats
I forget his name.
He flies the drone at
Yes, that's him.
We'll have to get his name because he's a good bloke.
He's a
We
top
would
bloke.
have had another one with him. Matty Lucas offered his services to him, but they said, mate, if you pay for your airfares, you can do it for us.
Yeah.
He said, don't worry about that.
No, it's their loss because Matty Lucas from the Rabbitohs media team is a champion.
There's only one more game left in the first round.
Yep.
Our bloke, Davey Mawali, hopefully he gets an opportunity. I think he's off the bench. It's the Cook Islands versus Wales. And that one's on pretty early tomorrow morning, Wednesday morning, 5:30.
Yeah, we might cover that when we come back.
Just to cap off that round one.
Yeah, next week's show. Now, let's wrap it up. The MILF and Dewey copped 1 week bans, so they'll be out of their next games. Now, week 2...
They gave the ref a spray, didn't they?
He got sent off, didn't he, Dewey?
He did,
Yeah.
First bloke to get
Blow
sent
up.
off in a World Cup since 1975. Dewey.
Wow.
Was it Grant Atkins, the referee? I mean, we've had a few issues with Grant Atkins, but I think he might have been the referee. And all Dewey said was, give us a go.
Yeah.
And he's marched him.
You reckon he added a bit more colour than just give us a go?
Yeah, I'd say so.
Yeah, I don't know.
So week 2, we mentioned that the big game coming up is England v France, Sunday 3 a.m. We also said the Aussies take on Scotland Saturday morning at 5:30, and then the remaining Aussie game is versus Italy, Sunday the 30th October at 5:30 a.m. Before we move on, my mate Dean Clarke is heading over there to play for the Australian Physical Disability team, and he's doing that with Adam Hills. He's in the team as well. They play England on Sunday at Warrington, and there's a few Rabbitohs players in that team too, so we'll keep an eye on them as well.
Yeah, great work, Dean. Good luck, mate. He's a big fan of the show. He's lives up there on the Gold Coast. So, yeah, good luck, mate, and hope everything goes well over there to you and the team.
So, around the NRL, and we've created that because we feel like we can broaden our audience across the game, and we've got a lot to talk about. So, that's our new show. We're going to do it as a segment with our Team List Tuesday and maybe share it as individual content. And we're going to kick it off with the big news around the NRL is the Dez Hasler debacle, is how I've described it, chaps. What do you got?
And I think this has been, my mail has been brewing since the middle of the season, around where Dez hasn't been able to get a certain faction of players to turn up on time, and he's going to fine them. The club's not backing him, and he was on a deal for a couple of years, and I think he's been trying to get sacked ever since then. Obviously, the rainbow jersey debacle, that was a similar faction of players that had got too much say in the club, and then they ended up wanting to take too much power out of Desi's hands, but he likes to really control everything recruitment-wise and what's going on. And
Call him the professor.
I think Dez would be pretty happy with the result, to be honest. He wanted out from my mail.
He's had what a career, Dez. I played against him when I was playing for South. He was playing for Manly, so he's a good player. He's a great player. And then he's won grand finals with Manly, got sacked, went to the Bulldogs, come back, sacked again. Brownie, he's had look, he's a legend, really. Yeah,
and like Chaps said, he likes to take control of everything, doesn't he? The professor, they call him. But Anthony Siebold, there's rumours that he will take over the job. It hasn't been announced yet. Anthony Siebold's actually in England himself, being assistant to Eddie Jones for the English rugby union team. So
he did a good job with South, Siebold, whether you like him or not. The way he got the job was a bit controversial, but and the way he left us. But mate, we played a pretty good attacking brand of footy that year. I think it was 2-18 from memory, and we were beaten by the Roosters at the old SFS there. But mate, we played some really good football that year, because leading into that, we weren't playing too well. We looked tired and fatigued, and
well, a lot of the systems were put in place when Siebold took over from Maguire, wasn't there? And I got to talk to Siebold at one of our functions when he was the coach, and he's very science orientated. Now, when he went to Brisbane, he took over from Wayne Bennett. Now, a lot of the players up there were relaxed. They probably used to get away with a lot more than what they were going to be getting used to when Siebold took over.
He's a real school teacher-like, isn't he?
That's right. He went in and he tried to change the whole structure and the whole system of the Broncos, and they just couldn't handle it. And he lost the dressing room straight away. And obviously the old boys got behind the players and said he's no good for the club, and they got him ousted. Now, a fresh start at Manly. Will he have the same impact as he did at the Broncos? Who knows? But
not many coaches ever in the history of Manly, if you're not a former player, have ever done any good. If you're not a Manly person, they've never done any good. So he's got a uphill battle if he does get named coach, which I think he will.
And I'm hearing all the assistant coaches are not going to be Manly people either. They've just ousted Michael Monaghan, who was Dez Hasler's assistant.
Yep.
They've given him the sack. I know a couple of the trainers have gone, and there's rumours that the Papua New Guinea and on the coaching staff, Shane Flanagan, who we just spoke about before, a great coach, a premiership-winning coach, who will be a great acquisition to Anthony Siebold if he does get the job. And Jim Dimmick, of course, has been scouted as a assistant as well.
Yeah, man, JD, Jimmy Dimmick.
Be good.
Do you reckon they're going to have a pride jersey next year, Manly? Or?
Is it? Well,
they should. Because, shout out to Ian Roberts, who's been on the show. I know I keep dropping names of people that have been on the show, but he has, and he's a legend. Yep. Well, they should have a pride. I'm happy with that. I like the colour, all the colours.
I'm happy with it.
Mate of mine's a Manly member, and their lanyard this year was all the rainbow colours, or the gay pride colours and all that sort of stuff. Yep. So
look, I know they've got beliefs.
The fans have got behind it, so the players have got to get behind it too.
Well, the players have got beliefs, and you've got to respect that. But have a look where they're playing. They're playing at 4 Pines Oval, which is alcohol. So whether they're behind, I think they were sponsored by PointsBet, who are a gambling agency.
Good point, Brownie.
So there's a lot of, I don't know, water flow under the bridge. If you want to stand by that, you've got to stand by all of them.
Look, the nation voted yes. Look, we've got to be inclusive. There's a, anyway, we don't want to get too many.
We're not going to get too political here. Now, the next point of view here to come up, a little bit of news popped up, is Madge to the Raiders, and he's going to oversee Ricky Stewart down there for the next 2 years.
Interesting.
How's that going to work? He's obviously a former Raider player.
Yeah, well, former Raider, yeah. He made his debut down there, played a couple of games in the early 80s.
Played for Adelaide as well. But
the Rams.
Well, Madge, he's with the Kiwis at the moment. Who knows? He might be a world champion soon. World champion coach heading down to the Raiders. Look, it's good to get a different opinion. Ricky's been down there a little while now. It'd be good to get a different voice and a different view. He might do some reviews that have a different opinion for Ricky. And it might work out all right for the Raiders. They've done some good things, I believe, in the off-season. They've pinched 3 of the best Dragons juniors to come through, about 16, 17-year-olds. Knocked them all off down there. They're heading to the nation's capital. So
yeah.
Madge has had a few hurdles in his coaching career, but one that we'll always love here on Bunnies TV is 2014 when he led our team to victory out there at Homebush. So great bloke. We've got to get him on the show. Brownie had a chat to him a couple of weeks ago and he said he'll come on. And now we've got even more reason to get him to come on because he's going to be out there at the Green Machine, who I'm not a big fan of, as you know.
But we got redemption against them a few years ago, mate. Look, it's not a gamble, put it that way. But look, the next subject here is a little bit about gambling.
Yeah, well, it's no doubt about it. He's a great coach, Michael Maguire. He's going down there to be... what was the role? It's
assistant to Sticky.
Well, it's sort of like an assistant. Now, is the writing on the wall? If Sticky doesn't get off to a great start, I mean, they snuck into the 8 this year. They were expected to finish a lot higher. They had a quality roster. Is Ricky under pressure?
Well, he's another bloke we played against, Brownie. He's another legend who's played for Australia. He's played at the highest level of the game. He's been sacked, come back, redemption.
Incredible talent, Rhys Stewart. What about some of the balls he used to throw?
Oh, unbelievable.
30, 40-metre balls from one side of the field to the other. His kicking game was unbelievable.
Well, he sort of like introduced the spiral kick, didn't he?
He had the rugby union background, didn't he?
Yes, he did. Yeah, definitely. He played rugby union.
He went to that big rugby union school in Canberra, didn't he?
Yes. Yeah, but, look, if Ricky doesn't get off to a flyer, they've got a ready-made premiership coach
They love him down there. They love Ricky down there.
They do, but...
He did get off to a quiet start, but the way he
they want results, chaps, this game. It's all about results.
That forward packer there was pretty dominant. Joseph Tapine, he obviously had a few dramas with him a few years back and that. But
is it Tapine or Tapine?
Tapine.
And how did Papali'i? Papali'i?
Oh, he's a legend.
Papali'i, he saw.
They've got some great players. Hudson Young. There was prediction that he was going to make the Australian touring side for the World Cup. He obviously missed out.
Yep.
The red-headed Corey Horsburgh, what a player is he?
Yeah.
So
we love a redhead here on Bunnies TV.
They've got a great roster down there.
Who doesn't?
I think they really need to get off to a good start.
Was it Sebastian Chris, the centre? Didn't he come on this year?
Yes.
The big rangy centre, and
the fullback's
he's a guy
exciting.
they developed too.
The fullback's a lightning quick, Xavier Savage.
There's a bit going on down there, yeah.
Yeah, but chaps, you just tried to roll into the gambling thing seamlessly, and we had a few more points to make. But Bo Champion, he dropped the tap ticket, and it was picked up by a young man called Jack Lenardos at the Doncaster pub, and there was a few dramas over it. What happened was Jack waited a few days and went and cashed the ticket at another venue, and he was found out on CCTV and went to court, was found not guilty because there's no name on the ticket, and he doesn't have to pay it back. It's nearly 10 grand. He reckons he spent it on lawyers, but the cops still might charge him with theft.
Yeah, well, my understanding, and I don't bet a lot these days, but my understanding is if you've got a tab ticket and you lose it, okay, you go and report it straight away to the tab. You've got to fill out a form, and they'll put a stop on the ticket.
They can cancel it, yeah.
Now, Jack, like you just said, Mavo, he spent it or he cashed it 3 days later. When did Champ report it? That's what we got to get to the bottom of. We might call Champ. Yeah. Our man Bo Champion. We've got his number.
He's been on the show too. I know. Just keep ticking him off. But We'll have to get him back on.
We might call him for a tip, actually. If he's winning amounts like that, he must know what he's doing.
Well, he might have had a few wins, Brownie, because he said he likes to have a bet. He might have been carving it up, and he had all these winning tickets. And
we might give him our tips a little bit later. Hang around. We're going to talk about the Cox Plate.
Plate, yeah, coming up. Young gun Jaden Sullivan has asked the Dragons for a release twice after they re-signed Ben Hunt. Now, I think Sullivan wants to go to the Dogs, but the Saints won't budge. And there's more unrest with Tyrell Sloan asking to be let go to the Dolphins. Saints boss Ryan Webb said, look, we're not going to let these kids go because we've put the time into developing them. And that's a dilemma that happens at a lot of clubs, and exactly what happened with South, Brownie and Renault.
Yes, well, it certainly was. And
on the flip side. But.
Yes, on the flip side, and I'll get to that a little bit in a minute. But Tyrell Sloan has rejected his request for a release, I believe. Yesterday it was reported. He's going to stay at the Dragons now, but I'm pretty sure Jaden Sullivan is still ongoing. And this is the dilemma, like you said, mate.
He'll end up at the Dogs, Jaden Sullivan. No doubt about it.
It's a dilemma that we had with Renault and Lachlan Ilias, isn't it, boys? Ben Hunt, the established halfback, the superstar, has just signed for another 2 years, which is going to obviously hold back Jaden Sullivan playing in his preferred position at halfback.
And the rumour is that he was on $1 million a year or something like that, and they thought he'd take a little bit of a pay cut and stay.
Yep.
Just for a bit of loyalty there, but apparently he didn't. He got nearly exactly what he got before.
Yep.
So he actually took money off other players there. Hence there's a bit of a fraction in that group. And look, our three of us went to the Red and Green Ball. There wasn't 30 players, there was about 40 South players. The Dragons only had 3. Now, I don't know about you blokes back in your day. If they had a presentation, have you ever been to one where there's only 3 blokes turned up?
I was waiting it from the first round.
Now, there's obviously a group chat. There's obviously a WhatsApp group going around that said, I'm not going, stuff and blah, blah, blah.
Yep.
A couple of blokes must have been out of the group. They still turned up.
Yeah.
Mate, that is absolutely unheard of down there. The hook, you might get the hook yourself before the season starts down there.
There's been reports over the last day or two, another former South player, Jack Goeski. Koweski, I think that's how you pronounce it. He came from Manly, signed with the Dragons, was in a starting side. His missus was having a baby. He attended the birth of the baby. He was in the starting side. He pulled out because he didn't have enough sleep. Thought of the team first. Because he didn't want to go and play and he felt fatigued. So he he put the team first and hasn't played another game since. So that's
he's
just another.
Good. He's a good forward.
And that leads us to George Burgess, boys.
Yeah, well,
Georgie's been released, and he's had his personal problems, Georgie, which we won't go there. But look, the Dragons have decided to part ways with him. I think he signed a 2-year deal. He was coming off some hip surgery that's pretty revolutionary. I don't think too many people have ever come back to play. Georgie came back, played a couple of games, majority in reserve grade. Look, if there's a spot at the Rabbitohs, would you have him? I'll start with you, Brownie.
Oh, look, personally, I love George Burgess and what he did for the club. He was outstanding in 2014. He was a big reason why we held that trophy high on that particular day. But personally, I think we've got a great pack of forwards at the moment. We've got a lot of depth in the forwards. And if we bring George back, it's just going to slow down one of the young players' developments in the club, similar to what we're just talking about with young Sullivan there at the Dragons.
So it's a no from you, Mova?
Well, we've just lost the GOAT to the Dolphins, as you know, when he gives us a lot of go forward. And I know it was 8 years ago, the grand final with George Burgess, but Thomas Burgess has played one of his best seasons this year, and they are identical twins, Brandon.
Oh, they were outstanding.
Right? So if he's anywhere near, if he can recapture any of that form, just like his twin brother has, and we get him at a discounted rate, I'd love to see him back at the club because his brother's going to be there. He's going to be, imagine him getting coached by Sam and coming off the bench with his brother.
Get the best out of him, G'ing him up. He's a bit of a G up, Sammy. But no, and it's a no from me in the top 30. But if you, what about a train and trial contract? $1,000 a week, Georgie.
Give him a go.
See if you can prove it that you're worthy.
I'll be happy with that.
Because I think you look at your teams like your Penriths and that their reserve grades are so strong to be able to play with experienced guys like that. It'd be fantastic for Shaq Mitchell to play with guys like Georgie or young Davey Mawali's or the ham salad and your Benny Lovett's, to just be around a guy like that. Yep. Like if you think back to that season, 2014, most of the tries we scored off from set plays were off of George Burgess played the ball because he pulled the whole team apart. He got up, shook his back, got the defenders off, played the ball, and we scored in that left corner.
But I think George is an NRL player without a doubt. But I just think it'll restrict our development of some of them players that you just mentioned. Davey Mawali, Shaq Mitchell, Hame Sele. So we've got great depth in that position.
Worst result, if you sign George on a training trial and you get him in our Reggie squad, he doesn't play an NRL game at all, but he plays 15 to 20 reserve grade games. That's still going to be...
Yeah, but does George Burgess want that?
Well, who knows? He might want to...
I think he can be a quality NRL player, maybe at the Tigers. He'll be in the starting side.
He loves the Rabbitohs, Georgie. Don't worry about that. Yeah. I seen him write something about the Rabbitohs yesterday. There was a bit of a interview Sam just did about Russell Crowe presenting him the membership for his father.
Oh, yeah.
And he told that story. And me and my father were right there within 5-10 metres of it. It was a trial game against Manly, and he was so fired up, he was so emotional. So their father's got a seat still to this day at all South home games.
Yeah,
they leave it vacant, and he gives out the membership to all three brothers every year.
Yep,
presents it to them every year. So
we asked Sam about that at the excitement machines.
Yeah,
I think that's what. No, modern day legends. At the juniors group of clubs, the juniors Kingsford actually, proud sponsor of us here on the show.
Now speaking of the juniors Kingsford boys, the War on the Wharves was held last week. Held at the Juniors Kingsford, and a great venue for boxing. I actually was in Hawaii. I watched it all the way there from Hawaii via the live stream where you two boys were the commentators.
It was good. I had a bit of a sore throat there, but we got through it.
You might have given it to me. That's why I'm...
No, it wasn't an influenza. I just had an actual sore throat from
that's
screaming at the NFL TV.
That's what I've got.
The day before when the Bears nearly got up. But anyway, that's another story for another day. But no, it was a good experience. Well done to Angelo Dimmick and the crew for organising that. There was we interviewed people from the Maritime Transport Union in England. He was a nice fella, Colin. We had the Maritime New Zealand Union boss over there. We had blokes from Hawaii. He was interesting, the guy from Hawaii. We had Cody Walker, Alicia Parker from South Care, some of the fighters. Matty Nable, he was a good interview. What a great guy. Michael Daly.
Yeah.
Great
we
interviews.
can go through them all, but some of the boxing on the night was pretty classy.
It was a good experience, chaps. We live streamed the whole event. Now, we'd never called boxing before, and I think we did okay. We had our moments where we were calling the action. I think I listened back, and a lot of times I was saying, "Oh, he hit this," and "Oh, he did that." So next time I'll try and eliminate that. But other than that, I thought we did okay because we had to try and mix in the interviews with the boxing, and it was a bit unfortunate. The second last bout was a real cracker, chaps. I don't know if you look back at that. And we talked basically through the whole thing in an interview instead of saying, wow, look at this boxing match. But other than that, it was a really good event. Thank you to, like you said, Angelo Dimmick, the Maritime Union of Australia. We're very proud members of that. And it was just good seeing our mates in the ring. And, you know, a lot of you would have been to these charity boxing events, and it's such fun to see your friends, and it's so courageous for people to do that. And all of our workmates, I wrote an article and said we were 4 from 4 at home. So all 4 of our mates that went into the ring walked out victorious, which was very satisfying to call that.
They put the work in, didn't they?
Great for the Daceyville PCYC where they all trained. Sean Wyndon, a credit to you.
Yep.
Jason Lang.
Sean too, yep.
Jason Lang was down there helping. Outlaw Boxing Gym. Cougs, Mark Kyle, he had a few fighters fighting as well.
Yep.
So, yeah, credit to everyone that steps in that ring. Let me tell you, it's very daunting. It's very
well done to the Kiwis. They come prepared. And,
they
were probably unlucky a couple of the decisions. I thought some of the Kiwis, they really took it seriously. We've had fights over there. Next year we're fighting in New Zealand again against the Maritime Union over there.
Boys, you spoke to Matty Nable, and I just want to give a shout out to Adam Nable, his brother, who's has got suffering some illness at the moment.
Yeah, MND,
and the union are going to do something along that road to try and raise some money for him. It was a great interview with Matt.
Yeah, and he came and sat next to us, his brother, and he couldn't speak. And we did mention that we spoke to Tasha Gale about it. You would have seen that she spoke about the heartbreaking story of her brother, Scotty Gale, who was a tremendous rugby league player, and he suffered from MND. And she said just to watch your loved one go through that. It's really sad.
Yeah.
I mean, that was
Look,
such a
Aaron
sad
Nable's
story.
a big, strong, buffy, wharfy, mate. He's a real alpha male. Every time I've gone to some of the union marches, he's yelling and proud, and he has a big drink. And he used to be a former amateur boxer. Him and Matt used to do a bit of boxing at the South Juniors back in the day. Just to see Matt sitting there next to him, holding his hand, taking so much care with his brother, it was really moving, honestly.
Well, it was, and I only watched it via the live stream, and I could see him in the crowd where they were sitting. But obviously, Sam Burgess, the Burgess boys, their dad, and there's a young bloke in the UK now going through it who was a tremendous player, Rob Burrows.
Oh, was he what?
Played with Leeds. If you do yourself a favour, go on YouTube and Google his name, Rob Burrows, how he's struggling at the moment and how it affects these people. It's just devastating.
We'll move on. So we'll like to talk about a few sports as well while we're doing our new segment. And brought to you by Bunnaby Water is the Cox Plate on Saturday. Now, last Saturday used to be Caulfield Cup Day. It was a big day in the Australian calendar. Now it's Everest Day thanks to Peter V'landys. He's hijacked the day. But good on him.
No one's talking about the Caulfield Cup anymore. It's all about the races in Sydney now, isn't it? And they had 46,000 there. It was absolutely packed to the rafters there. And it's a real younger crowd, isn't it? And
that's a record crowd.
That's what he wanted to do.
46,000. The previous record, 43.
A friend of mine was out there. He said, look, it was great, but, geez, it was tough to go to the toilet or get a drink and all that. But they're really short-staffed at the moment. They've got 14, 15-year-olds in the catering and everything because they just can't get anyone to man up positions in there. But
I like they put Sydney on the map.
AJC.
Because why did we just keep handing it over to Melbourne for this spring carnival? Everything was all about Melbourne. Well, Sydney's on the map now with the Everest, the richest race, and the winner was a good win too. The 3-year-old that just flew home at the end, and it was a good story that
unbeaten.
Yeah.
Nature ship faded, didn't it? Him and
Well, he had a tough run in running.
They went come to the top of the straight, and
it was three wide
faded.
in running. Nature strip, and he just died on his run. It's a tough ask coming up the rise there. If you've sat 3 wide, especially in a Group 1, it's okay if you're
a lot of
just in a maiden
a lot of
race.
pressure coming from the boys at the back, and I think the rail was right out 16 metres.
Yeah.
So it was a fair way out, and it was still a little bit soft. So that's how much rain we've had here in Sydney. If you're not viewing this from Sydney,
another big event
Cox
in
Plate.
Melbourne, Cox Plate. Well, there's nothing on in Sydney, so the Cox Plate might be able to get some recognition and some exposure about it.
I think it's Golden Eagle Day, so there is still some good races on in Sydney.
It's always a good time of year for racing.
Yeah,
the combination of James McDonald and Chris Waller, the 2 Kiwis, they've had an outstanding spring already, and they've got the favourite, Animo. He's going to be hard to beat, $2.30. Zaki's probably the next best challenger. He's been a good solid horse. Couple of roughies there. I'm Thunderstruck, Alligator Blood.
Yep.
They've changed stables a few times. Alligator Blood.
Well,
he's a roughie that I like, I suppose, if you're looking for a bit of value.
Well, if you're looking for a combination, James McDonald and James Cummings for the Godolphins.
Yeah.
It looks like Animo. What is it?
Animo.
Animo.
What a horse. 19 starts for 10 wins. He just loves winning, this horse, and he's going to be hard to beat down there in Melbourne. Smaller track. You've got to be up there. They do come sweeping around the turn at the school there at Moonee Valley. But what a great race. It's exciting. Some great horses have won this race.
It's the Weight for Age Championship of Australia. It's a great race. 2,040 metres over the twisting, tight track of Moonee Valley. And if you're not really a punter, Brownie just mentioned Godolphin. Just if you want to have a bet, look for a horse in the all blue, because Godolphin's owned by the Sheikhs, Sheikh Mohammed Al Maktoum, I think his name is, and they've always got quality horses. And obviously J-Mac is Australia's greatest rider at the moment. He's a champion, and obviously Cummings, you've heard that name before. But you mentioned Zaki and Jamie Carr. What a story about that young lady, chaps. She's taken all before her and going against. It goes back to when.
She got into a bit of strife there where she went to a party at COVID and she got suspended. I think she ended up with 3 months or 6 months suspension. But, geez, she's come back bigger, better than ever.
Yeah, it goes back to when escaped me, the girl that won the Melbourne Cup. Michelle Payne. Michelle Payne. So, everyone has to think that women weren't as good as the men on the horses. And when she won that, she said, stuff yous, there you go, we can do it. And like Jamie Carr and also Rachel King up here in Sydney, they're ladies that are proving that theory wrong. That I used to think the same thing. You have to be Mick Dittman and whip him over the line and pick him up and carry him over the line. But Jamie Carr, she's a good jockey. If you can back anything that she's riding, then Zaki's going to be in it right at the thick of it.
Well, there's whip restrictions now, so you can't really flog them these days.
Yeah.
You can only hit them so many times in the last 100 metres. So, for the days that get the strong riders, obviously there's some strong riders out there and that can push them over the line, but to flog them over the line, it's unheard of. When I drove my winner, I flogged mine too.
Yeah, you did.
I got fined excessive use of the whip.
Yep, we did a story on that. It was a good story. I really enjoyed doing that story about your win and talking to all the different people involved. I like Gold Trip. I backed him in the Caulfield Cup, and he looked the winner till about 2 strides before the post and just got dudded. So he's going to be a good chance again. He's ridden by Jamie Spencer, another Jamie, and his trainer is what's his name? Kieran Maher and David Eustace, so they're good trainers as well. So,
boys, now we're going down this road of talking about all different sports. We'll have to get, and we've had Wendy Roach on. We've had a few of the Les Bridge. We've had him on, who's a mad, passionate South Sydney supporter. But there's another mad South Sydney supporter who's a trainer.
Yep.
He's got the tattoo like chaps, right there. He's got the tattoo. And his name's Joe Pride. Yeah, he loves South Sydney. So we'll have to get Joe on for a chat.
Very good trainer.
Very good trainer.
Yep.
If you see any of Joe's horses racing this week, make sure you have a little wager on it because he is an excellent young trainer.
So
Geelong Cup's on today. That's all.
There you go.
Good indicator for the Melbourne Cup.
It is indeed. So
and that same combination again. Chris Waller, James McDonald got another favourite down there. Surefire. Good luck with that one.
Well, that's right. Everyone's looking for lead-up races into the Melbourne Cup. So you see, obviously, the Caulfield Cup, the Cox Plate, Geelong Cup. You have there's a few different cups that winners have gone on to win that and qualify because they've got to win these races. So that's the Geelong Cup winner, I think, is exempt from the ballot things like that.
Yeah, it gets an automatic start.
Yeah, because they got to get it. They get a certain amount of penalties. You've got to have enough weight to be qualified for the Melbourne Cup. So we'll come back when we do our next show. We'll have a bit of a Melbourne Cup preview by then, or look back at the.
I think there's a race on the Saturday.
Yep.
That if you win that race, it used to be, was it the McKinnon?
Yeah, the McKinnon, and then the McKinnon's on a different day now, but it's the Bart Cummings. Bart Cummings always used to run his horses on the Saturday.
Yes.
And it's a 2,500 metre race to qualify for the Melbourne Cup. And
on the Tuesday.
I thought, how do they do that? But he's done it a lot of times, and a lot of horses have done that. The Saturday, won that race, and won on Saturday. Now, I was going to say this, so the comp's over, but we've got the racing, we've got the World Cup, and we've also got the NFL, which me and chaps love, and the Major League Baseball. So we'll look at the baseball first, chaps.
Well, they're in their playoff series at the moment, and a couple of the big names. The Dodgers are out. The Padres beat the Dodgers. The Padres have got the payroll's not as big as what the Dodgers is. Dodgers is one of the biggest payrolls in America.
Bit like yours.
$250 million.
Bit like yours at DP World.
Well, that'd be nice.
And I watched some of those games.
The Padres have gone through.
The Padres game, I was watching a few of those.
The crowd went mental.
They were just singing "Beat LA, beat LA." It was so good watching that. I love the playoffs, and I don't watch baseball during the year, but I do watch the playoffs because the drama is so good, and the Yankees as well. The Yankees have just, I think they've
just got through over the Guardians, which was a bit of a mismatch. The Cleveland Guardians, a new name,
used to be the Indians. The Indians, yeah.
Their payroll $67 million. What about the might of the Yankees? $250 million payroll.
I know, it's unbelievable.
That's basically their salary cap. $250 million they spend. The Guardians only spent $67.
Yeah.
Took them to 5 games. They were beaten 5-1 this morning. So that's the Yankees v the Astros now. I think the Astros will get through that one myself. They've got everything. They've got the relief pitching, the closers, the starters. They've got a great fielding team, some of their batters.
Astro.
Oh, that
was the Jetsons' dog, wasn't it?
Incredible club.
Yeah, I think so.
They've got some funny names, haven't they, these baseball teams?
But the Yankees are a good side too. They've got Aaron Judge, obviously superstar, and they've got some good pitchers as well. So that's your sport, chaps. But
NFL, boys, we're
Astros
6 games.
The Astros, okay.
NFL, 6 games into it, and former South Sydney Rabbitoh, Jordan Mailata, is in fine form for the Philadelphia Eagles, who are 6-0.
He's been good, mate. That whole team's been good.
Yep.
Led by Jalen Hurts. They've got it all on both sides of the ball. Defense, they've got a great D-line, they've got a great O-line.
Yep.
Their secondary is just about as good as anyone in the league.
Wide receiver, Devontae Smith, he's electric.
Yeah, we've got the combination of Devontae Smith and A.J. Brown now, the new receiver. He can sort of go up and get those contested catches.
Oh, yeah. He can go.
Smith's a great route runner. You got a great backfield in Miles Sanders, led by Miles Sanders and and Gainwell.
Who's the team to beat, chaps, in the NFL?
I still think it's the Buffalo Bills.
Yeah.
Josh Allen, he's killing them. Stephon Diggs.
How good was that game, chaps? Like last year, they played one of the greatest games ever played, and they had a rematch again.
Chiefs and Bills, yeah.
Chiefs and Bills, and it was another classic. And Josh Allen, like you said, and they're both sides are stacked. Like Patrick Mahomes at home, you never usually bet against him, and they were in it right till the end until he threw an intercept, a desperate intercept. But yeah, those two are going to be hard to beat. There's been a couple of surprise packets though, chaps. The Jets and also the Giants. No one had them good at all.
The Jets and the Giants have been real disappointments in the New York sporting market, the biggest sporting market on the planet. And look, they're killing them. They're 5-1. The Giants. Who would have thought? The Jets have had a great draft. Patrick Surtain, the cornerback, he's killing them.
I actually got to see them play, the Jets and the Giants. I went to the first game at the new stadium, MetLife.
Oh, right.
Where the local derby, the Jets played the Giants. And let me tell you.
Doesn't happen very often, yeah.
What an event. It was outstanding. What do they call the in the car park? The
tailgate.
Tailgate. They come from all over the place. It was packed. It was a great atmosphere. Similar to what, a grand final is, but it was just a normal game, a local derby, but admittedly, it was the first game in the new MetLife Stadium.
Our man Ryan McGee from across the pond, he loves his tailgates too, so shout out to you, legend.
Let me tell you, some of them are worth well over millions of dollars, some of their vans. Unbelievable.
Now, there's some disappointing things. The Denver Broncos, who give up a king's ransom to get Russell Wilson, they are the worst attacking team in the NFL at the moment. They are in all sorts. They gave up 2 first-round draft picks, 2 second-round draft picks, and he cannot move the chains, this bloke.
Well, that's right.
He's awful.
There's a bit of criticism about him a couple of weeks ago. Like the coach stuffed up. They had to get 5 yards on 4th down, and instead of giving it to your $100-and-something million quarterback, they went for an impossible field goal from 60-odd out and missed. So they said, well, why you give him all this money if you can't give him the ball to win you the game?
There's no faith in him at the moment.
It could be an end of an era for the Packers too. I mean, they've just lost their best receiver, and I think Aaron Rodgers, he's not looking the same guy.
Their defense has been disappointing, the Packers. They thought they had a red-hot defense. Their secondary looked great. Joy Alexander and all these big first-round draft pick. Hasn't panned out for him, but never knock a champion, Aaron Rodgers. I'm sure he'll be back.
Can you name me the NRL coach that was at the Green Bay Packers game on the weekend? No. Toddy Payton, boys.
Toddy Payton.
Oh, there you go. And there's a couple of punters, the decent punters in the NFL too, chaps. I don't know if you can rattle them off.
There's a few good punters.
A couple of Aussies.
Yeah. One for Seattle. I just can't remember his name, Mike or something or other, but yeah.
Yeah, Mick. Shout out to you, mate. Well, next week we'll do our homework on the NFL, but we just thought we'd cover a bit of that. Like I said, we'll come back next week. Thanks for sticking with us.
Another round of World Cup next week, boys.
It goes to, I think the finals on the 20th of November, so it all comes around pretty quick. It only goes for about 4 or 5 weeks.
And before we know it, the boys will be back training on the 1st of November. Oh, we might go a little bit longer. Obviously, the World Cup boys won't be there. But a lot of the players that Joe O'Callaghan spoke about will get the opportunity to train with the top 30 squad over the summer.
Yeah, so we'll come back with some shows about the Rabbitohs, some more around the NRL, World Cup specials.
Interview coming up next week, so little teaser. A
few interviews. We'll be going live. A lot of things happening here on the show. Thanks to everyone who's watching and to our sponsors. See you next time.
See you guys.
See you later.